given him the chance to apologize, he'd still be alive.
What?
A stylish horror that takes us to the dark heart of toxic masculinity, female perspectives on Iranian, Afghan and Pakistani societies, and a troubling journey to the hinterland between Argentina and Brazil in a chilling new film. That's all coming up in today's show. We start off with a woman alone in an old empty house and the lingering pain of a recent trauma. Well, it's all the ingredients for a classic psychological thriller. And this one is called Men. It comes from British filmmaker Alex Garland, asking important questions about grief, violence and women's responsibility in all of that. The film stars actress Jessie Buckley, and she was at the Cannes Film Festival for the premiere, where France 24's Eve Jackson got a chance to find out more from the leading lady herself.
Jessie Buckley, hello.
Hello.
It's been a big year for you, a BAFTA and an Oscar nomination for The Lost Daughter. You're here in Cannes with Alex Garland's Men. What a film. How would you describe it?
There's a wildness to this film. And provocative and punk. A wild punk provocative film is what I would say.
You seem to be attracted to films dealing with some really big questions. The Lost Daughter tackles this taboo subject of women not having a maternal instinct, or some women not having a maternal instinct. This film seems to tackle the evil of men throughout history. What attracts you to these enormous topics?
I guess because they ask me questions. And I don't know, I think they ask me to unlearn things and to learn new things.
But
Would it just be you staying, or
Excuse me?
Mrs. Martin?
No.
until you give your love, there's nothing more that we can do.
Apple from the garden?
Yeah, it was delicious.
No. Mustn't do that. Forbidden fruit.
Oh, God, sorry,
I'm joking.
Rory Kinnear plays all of the men in the film. Do you think all men are versions of the same one?
No. We're all far too complex. I think we all have everything in us, you know, men and women. I have amazing men in my life. I made this film with amazing men. But I think this script and this story is provoking the kind of archetypes of toxic masculinity within men throughout time, and what are the things that have kind of returned and why do they return. But I don't think this is saying that this is all men. I think this is just an aspect that can appear within men at certain times from pain, really, and from a wound that hasn't learned how to heal itself.
Out of all the men that he plays, which one's your worst one?
Oh, the priest.
He's so great.
Whenever the priest came on set, it was like a different set. Jeffrey was the best. Jeffers is the funniest. Everybody loved Jeffrey coming to set, but the priest, nobody wanted to hang out with the priest.
In your previous films, Beast, Wild Rose and The Lost Daughter, you play women who are torn between assumed responsibility and their own desires. Even in Men, your husband cannot believe that you'd consider leaving him, and when you say that you want to, he continues to haunt you because of that. Do you think we're free to do what we want, women today?
I think that's something that we have to keep fighting for. I think we all have a fundamental right to choose the life that's right for us. Throughout history, women have been contorted and been submitted into certain shapes that kind of can appeal or placate a situation, but I think we're in an exciting moment now where actually the power within us as women and the power between us as with women and men is shifting, and I'm interested in that narrative, and I think there's always more to grow, you know, nothing is finite.
Have you noticed changes in recent years in the industry as a woman?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky. For some reason, I feel like I've been able to explore a lot of those things from scripts that I've received, which are kind of poking the parameters which we've been allowed to live in for a while. And like, for me, that's my expression, that's my politics. Like, that's where I can actually exercise those things. There have been shifts, but it's never, I still think there's like more, you know?
A man followed me out of the woods. He was stalking me.
What makes you say that?
I saw him twice.
Twice. I don't know if he saw you once.
Alex Garland uses the natural world a lot in his films. You go on, it starts like a lovely walk. It doesn't finish like a lovely walk, but it's very beautiful, the nature we see. And it made me think of the way that city dwellers now want to escape to the countryside after COVID. What was it like to make a movie using nature in this way?
Oh, I loved it. I grew up at the foot of a mountain, so like, I'm hungry for nature, so being able to shoot in those locations was so beautiful. And like, I really think how Rob Hardy, the cinematographer, and Alex have captured that and used it as a kind of seduction into a sense of horror is so beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen kind of England so kind of delicious. But that's so the kind of clever thing that he does is he kind of hypnotizes you into this sense of horror where you're leaning towards the things that you're most afraid of because of that environment. But yeah, I loved it.
Delicious countryside, but full of weirdos.
Yeah.
And for another take on the neo-horror genre, Agustina San Martin is releasing her debut feature, To Kill the Beast. The film's a dark and disquieting journey into the jungle between her native Argentina and neighbouring Brazil, where a young woman searching for her lost brother. Well, that quest is marred by a mysterious presence in the shadows, which sets the protagonist on a slippery path. Let's get a taste of the atmosphere she creates in that movie. We're going to Brittany now, in the west of France, where the whole village of La Jessie becomes an open-air photography show every year between June and September. The theme this summer is Visions of the East, bringing us imagery from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran. Our reporters went to find out more from some of the women whose unique perspectives on their home landscapes feature in those exhibitions. Marie Schuster and Nick Rushworth tell us more.
You're out strolling in the village of La Jessie in Brittany in northern France when at a bend in the river you see these photos of women dancing under the gaze of armed men in Pakistan. Remarkable women who have the strength and courage to survive the worst. The theme for the village's 19th annual photography festival is Women of the East in various active roles, in front of and behind the camera lens.
When you talk about Iran, Afghanistan, you don't necessarily think of women being the ones taking the pictures. What surprised me is that these women are fairly combative, almost warriors, in terms of depicting reality in their countries, sometimes with a great deal of subtlety.
The Iranian artist Mariam Firouzi achieves the feat of talking about the veil without us actually seeing one. In Iran, she says, you have to know how to make your point without doing it in a shocking way.
It's not interesting for me to be a photojournalist or take some images that everybody can see. I need to express myself in this way because I think in my country, art is the only way that you can express yourself because you repress for a lot of things in Iran.
Other artists have chosen to be more explicit. The Afghan photographer and journalist Fatima Husseini paid the price for that. She had to flee when the Taliban took control in Afghanistan last summer. With her photos as her only luggage, she sought exile in France.
I'm just here and I don't want to miss any opportunity to keep talking about Afghanistan and to keep talking about women of Afghanistan and to show my photos as much as I can, to show that, yes, Afghanistan is not just burqa, Afghanistan is not just Taliban, Afghanistan is not just about restrictions, black pictures, images, explosions, or terrorism, Islamophobia, or whatever. It's also, you can find beautiful things, you can find resilience, you can find hope. Like, I just want to tell the untold stories of women of my country.
The Photography Festival aims to tackle stereotypes head-on. It has a selection of extraordinary photos which give an insight into difficult times, all the while showing that hope springs eternal.
And finally, her dark fairy tale scenes and unflinching portraits of the female experience made the diminutive Paulo Rego a giant of late 20th century art. The Portuguese-British artist has died at 87 years old after a career spent using pastels, oils and sculpture to express subtle ideas about abortion, domestic violence and the creeping grip of the patriarchy in both the personal and political spheres. Her work was celebrated with a major retrospective at the Tate Britain last year. We'll leave you with some of her pieces. Otherwise, do remember to check out our website for more arts and culture. We're on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.